Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological response in which a captive or hostage develops positive feelings toward their captor. This emotional bond can include sympathy, loyalty, or even a sense of dependence, despite the harm the captor has caused. Psychologists believe that this response is a survival mechanism, where victims subconsciously align with their captors to reduce the threat of violence and increase their chances of survival. Stockholm Syndrome is not officially classified as a mental disorder, but it is often discussed in relation to trauma and abusive relationships. Now let's examine its origin. The term Stockholm Syndrome comes from a 1973 bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden, where hostages were held for 6 days and began to identify with their captors. Even after their release, some of the hostages defended the criminals and refused to testify against them. A criminologist studying the case coined the term to describe this unexpected emotional bond. While the syndrome became widely known through this event, similar psychological reactions have been observed throughout history, particularly in cases involving kidnapping, abuse, and long-term captivity. Now let's look at some examples. One of the most well-known cases of Stockholm Syndrome is that of Patty Hearst, who was kidnapped in 1974 and later appeared to support her captor's cause. Another example involves hostages who, after being rescued, expressed reluctance to leave their captors or defended their actions. Beyond kidnappings, Stockholm Syndrome has been compared to certain cases of domestic abuse, where victims develop emotional attachments to their abusers and may resist outside help. Though not all hostages or victims experience Stockholm Syndrome, these cases highlight how survival instincts can sometimes lead to unexpected psychological responses. Now let's consider some criticisms of the concept. One major criticism of Stockholm Syndrome is that it lacks clear scientific definitions and diagnostic criteria. Some psychologists argue that the term is too vague and oversimplifies complex trauma responses. Another criticism is that it is often used to blame victims rather than understanding their experiences, especially in cases of long-term abuse. Additionally, researchers debate whether Stockholm Syndrome is truly a separate condition or simply a form of post-traumatic coping. Despite these criticisms, the term remains widely used in discussions of hostage situations and trauma psychology.